Hello everyone and welcome to the Bet It Right show in conjunction with betitright.com, a brand new website that brings the football data to your door. Each week we'll update you on the key numbers and metrics that you can use to help you show off in front of your mates and allow you to bet better. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast and get involved with us at betitright.com. And my partner in crime, as you all know now on the Bet It Right show, is the one and only Dean Selvin. He joins me once again. And before we get into the weekend games, Dean, lots to talk about regarding the Champions League, which we've seen the round of 16 first leg fixtures complete. How do you assess what we saw?
So many different feelings around who could win this. You know, you've got City winning 5-0 at Sporting, then losing at Spurs with a hangover. You've got Liverpool winning away at Inter, but being dominated for long periods. But that final part for Inter just wasn't in sync that night. Obviously, last night, Ralf Rangnick taking United to Madrid and getting a 1-1 draw. Amazing moment for Anthony Elanga. But really, I'd say so far, the team that sticks out from a results perspective is obviously Man City. And I think the most intriguing tie for me in the second leg is going to be PSG-Madrid. Just looking at how dominant PSG were in the first leg and whether Madrid can actually do anything about it.
Do you think Madrid will set up? I mean, they were criticised, weren't they, Ancelotti, I think, by the president, saying that's not how Madrid play. In terms of how they set up against PSG, and they sort of absorb just this constant barrage of pressure. Do you think that Ancelotti at the Bernabeu will approach it very differently?
You'd like to think so, right? The atmosphere at the Bernabeu, fans back, Champions League. That's what Madrid have been known for so many years now. But the problem is that they just don't have that pace on the counter-attack. And it was really interesting in the first leg when they played Vinicius Jr. against Hakimi. Hakimi's easily as quick as him, as mobile, as athletic. And then on the other side, you've got Asensio, which you know, he doesn't have as much going forward in relation to kind of transition. And then Benzema needs to be in and around the box making sharp movements. So I think if you play a high line and an aggressive press against PSG, you're just worried about Mbappe, Neymar, those guys on the counter-attack just pulling you apart, and which is, I think, why he went to the Parc des Princes and played that way. If he does play a high aggressive line and is more front foot, then you could see Mbappe just really, really killing them on that evening, which would be a nice welcome for his move in the summer.
But looking at the Champions League on the whole, that will be a challenge. I mean, PSG, I think it's fair to say, would you agree that they haven't really clicked in Liga this season? Like, they have some weird results given the strength of their squad. But in the Champions League, they're going to provide a headache to Klopp, to Guardiola, to any of these like sort of world-class managers that come up against them because of that threat that they pose up top.
Yeah, I think they're a team that thrive on the big game. Those big players, they want to play in the big games. Do they want to go to, you know, a team that we're going to talk about today in Ligue 1? Do they want to go to Clermont on a Tuesday night? You know, they're interested. It's kind of the old Stoke adage on a Tuesday night. You know, there's Mbappe and Neymar. They're really up for those sort of games against Reims, against Angers. But it's those games where those players really come to life. And we see it all the time, right? That's why you have giant killings in the FA Cup. The smaller club beats the bigger club on those nights because they're like, do we have to play this game? I'm more excited about playing the game next week against the team that's second or third in the big games. But yeah, they'll provide a massive challenge. And last night it was really interesting to see Rangnick again struggling to break down a team that play a deeper block. Obviously, Anthony Elanga's got away. There's that moment in midfield where it breaks down and the defender tries to intercept and he's through. Jan Oblak overcompensates at his near post, which gives him the angle to finish. But United created very, very little last night, and that's been an ongoing problem for him. So at Old Trafford, I don't expect Simeone to change. Simeone is Simeone. He won't conduct the crowd as much, and he won't be as crazy as last night, again, like on the pitch, basically half the game. But it's going to be interesting to see how Rangnick can change United to unlock that Atletico Madrid back five.
I love Simeone. As you know, I've got the gaffer that watches over me. But there's a documentary about him on Amazon Prime, actually, for those that haven't watched it. I highly recommend it.
Well, he's been there now for, I think it's 11 years now, which is just amazing in Europe. And we're going to talk about another manager later in the show, Christian Streich, who's been at Freiburg for pretty much the same amount of time. They got appointed at the same time, but one was official before the other. And them and I think Frank Schmidt in Heidenheim, who's 13 years, are the longest serving managers in Europe at the moment. But he's done an amazing job when you think about challenging, getting into that Barcelona, Madrid group, and then winning the league. Obviously, winning the league last year. Struggled a bit this year with injuries and trying to find a forward that can score goals consistently. But I mean, he's a lunatic. He is just a lunatic. Every player. But you see last night, like every player that plays for him, they adopt that. Like Hector Herrera, Savic, who had that period at Manchester City. They are just around the referee. They're just so intense. And obviously, me and you have been there. We talked about it before. The stadium's in just amazing. And the way that like obviously Ferguson was at United for 27 years and they struggled to move on after him. If he ever leaves Madrid, I just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, who would want to go in there and be the next Simeone? It's impossible.
The other news to touch on the Premier League, Tottenham, in line, I think, with what Dean was saying there about PSG, they raised their game for Man City. They lose to Burnley. Watford are struggling big time. They lost 4-1 to Crystal Palace, and Liverpool routed Leeds. So if you did triple captain Salah or Mane or whoever, then anyone from Leeds, well done. Except Alexander Robertson, who didn't play in one of the fixtures.
But we talked about this last week, didn't we? Because we previewed the Tottenham Man City game and we said about Man City, covering the handicap. But the threat from Tottenham was on the counter-attack, and that's exactly what they did against Man City. You saw Harry Kane dropping in. You saw players running beyond, playing balls around corners. Amazing stuff from him in that withdrawn forward role. But when they play against a deep block like Burnley, more defensive, they had 66% possession last night. Again, similar to United, they just can't do it. That team's set up to block their game plan. Where's plan B?
It'll be interesting to see whether Conte's the manager at Tottenham next week. His press conferences and interviews afterwards suggested that he is not a happy camper there.
He must be like this every week, like Man City, yay! Like Steven Bergwijn's 2 goals against Leicester, and then next week, boom! It's literally like that.
Up and down roller coaster of Antonio Conte's spell at Tottenham. We'll keep our eyes on that. Now, normally at this stage of the show, we take you from our sort of general discussion about all things football, various different topics, which we'd love your engagement on. So if you have any Champions League thoughts or indeed thoughts on Conte, let us know at BIR Insight. We take you from the discussion into the tactics room, but we have a new segment and some friends have joined us here on the Bet It Right show. And they are friends of ours from Surprise Shirts. So without further ado, Dean, take us into the kit room if you can. What have you got for us?
So when we started this show, I reached out to some companies and I said, look, do you want to collaborate? We love football. You love football. I love football shirts. When I think about amazing football shirts from the past, I think about Gabriel Batistuta in the Fiorentina kit, the United shirt at Southampton where they blamed that drubbing on the fact that they were wearing a grey kit and they changed at half time. So, kits are iconic. So we reached out and we've got a little collaboration with the guys at Surprise Shirts. And it's an amazing story. Louis, the son, and Rob, the dad, going through some complications with COVID and jobs, and Louis was doing his A-levels. And Louis came up with the idea to kind of sell some shirts online. It started to pick up, and now they've grown the business, got full-time employees, moved into a new facility, and it's just grown and exploded. And those guys are doing an amazing job. They run competitions regularly on their socials. You can catch their socials at Surprise Shirts on Twitter and surprise_shirts on Instagram. And their website is www.surpriseshirts.co.uk. They run competitions, they do subscriptions, or you can buy individual shirts in a one-off package, maybe as a Christmas present or a birthday present. They're Coventry fans. I don't know, does anyone hate Coventry or like Coventry? It's kind of half and half. But yeah, amazing. Comes in this nice branded box. And when you open it up, there's a little thank you card from them, just saying, can you post a shirt, picture of you in this shirt on socials, and also just a little note there about kind of the manufacturers. And when you open the box up, lovely bit of packaging, and then a little bit of information about the club and the shirt that you get. You don't know which shirt you're getting, you don't know which country it's from, what season it's from, hence the name Surprise Shirts, but it's an amazing concept.
All right then. Love it. Without further ado, Dean, can you get your kit on?
I can. So as if by magic.
Very good. I like it, Dean. You've put the shirt on. For those listening on the podcast, it's white and maroon, mainly white.
With some lovely detail. I could wear this to the pub. This isn't what a shirt this is, by
It
the
is
way.
a very cool shirt. I'm very jealous.
And it's got poppers as well. Everyone loves a popper on a shirt.
That is
Oh,
cool. I'm actually playing five-a-side tonight, and I'm on the white team, so that shirt would go down very well.
believe.
In that box, as you showed us, in the
Yeah.
surprise shirts box that come, they give you facts about the club. So I think each week, with the different shirts that you're going to be wearing, courtesy of surprise shirts, why don't we set a challenge to our listeners, our viewers, for them to guess? So if you can read out the facts that accompany the shirt, and we'll see how many of our listeners and viewers get it right.
I will. As Ollie said, inside the shirt, a little bit of information. I'll try not to be too obvious with it, but it's a Turkish football club. Formed in 1967. They've won 6 titles. They had an ex-Chelsea player as their manager recently, but he got sacked for being useless. And they were banned from competing in Europe for breaches of the financial fair play regulations. But yeah, what a shirt. Really happy with this first one. If you live in Alicante, which is where I do, you might see me wandering the streets in this later, trying to look cool.
If you know the answer, at BIR Insights, get involved, and yeah, we'll give you a shout out if you indeed are correct. But that's our first ever kit room, and we go from the kit room. A big thanks to Surprise Shirts; they'll be with us every week. We go from the kit room to the tactics room. Right, what are you analysing in the tactics room today, Dean?
A little bit like last week, we're going to go for a team that we haven't really talked a lot about this season, which is Brentford and their upcoming massive basement battle with the revitalised Newcastle. Brentford,
they have.
Sorry, go on, Ollie.
No, I was going to say they really have been revitalised, haven't they? I mean, there's a real buzz around St James's Park at the moment. It's not. Yeah, I suppose I was going to say it's not a surprise given who they've brought in. They've brought in some good players, right? But I think it is a bit of a surprise actually because they haven't brought in, like as we discussed earlier. It's not like they brought in Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar to St James's Park.
Well, no, with this, the return picture of this was that bumper game with all the goals that we talked about. Right, I think it was in our first episode, and the signings have started to settle. Fraser's been playing really well. So Maximan was out last week in their draw with West Ham, but yeah, they're 6 unbeaten in the league, and Brentford coming to this 7 without a win. You know, sliding down the table. It's a really bad period for them. And what I wanted to talk about in this game really is that there is one real clear area of exposure in favour of Newcastle, which could see our friend Chris Wood score his first goal. I was slightly against the signing of him for the amount of money that they paid when we talked about the January transfer window. But this week it could be his moment for his first goal. And, you know, 3 points for Newcastle. They could leapfrog 3 teams. They could replace Brentford in 14th. So this is a massive fixture for both teams, especially given the downward spiral that Brentford have been on in the last few weeks.
The other thing is as well is that I always assume that probably, I don't know whether it's correct or not, that Tony's a very good player, but he's struggling at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he's one of those players. It's very one-dimensional, and Brentford are a little bit one-dimensional as a team, which is where they've come unstuck. The first 11, when you looked at the squad coming into the Premier League, you thought, okay, that's probably good enough for them to survive, you know, tooth and nail. But it's the replacements, and this is something for Bet It Right users. You know, if last week we talked about the Atalanta-Fiorentina game and being overs, but I mentioned that there was some team news that we needed to know about. And when you looked at it, Atalanta had no centre forward in the team. With Brentford, the players that are coming in to replace players that are dropping out and they've had a lot of injuries aren't at the same level. So there you have to adjust their XG expected and conceded and then start to look, okay, well, if these players are missing and Tony's not firing, then what actually are going to be their outputs? And he's a player that, you know, they're very direct. They play into him. They have one midfielder to join off the side. They tend to play 3-5-2, trying to be defensive, trying to be organised and trying not to concede goals. But he's not been playing well. The team have been struggling with injuries. And there's one real area where I think Newcastle will focus on this game, which is why I wanted it to be the tactics room today. Now, Newcastle have got good quality in wide areas. Obviously, Trippier being injured is a big miss for them, given his dead ball deliveries. But they will deliver lots of crosses. And Chris Wood will attack those crosses. And so Maximan should be back in the team for the weekend, hovering around those inside of the 18-yard box where you can deliver with width from the right and the left. what I like to call against the direction of possession, where defenders are caught on the blind side. You know, you can see that defender's number, you run in behind. And I think this could be an area where Newcastle really attack, because Brentford's ability to defend wide areas and defend crosses is really poor. 3 centre midfielders getting across the pitch. The timing of the wing backs to release isn't great. So the area to the sides of the left and right centre midfielders are always open. And that's an area that Newcastle would like to get into to deliver those in-swinging crosses for Chris Wood to attack. So I do think this is an area that they'll exploit. And I do think it's an area where Newcastle can attack and get 3 points in this game.
So potential bets?
Well, here we go. Now, Trippier out. Fraser an injury. Guimaraes Almiron may be coming in. And slight little team there. So I would say to people, just wait for teams just to see who's fit and see if St. Maximin is playing. I don't see the change in tactics and the change in game flow, but there was obviously changing quality in those players. But the potential bet for me, Newcastle are available, draw no bet, on almost even money. Now, that's your safer bet. But if you want to go a little bit more aggressive, knowing that the run that Newcastle are on, identifying that tactical area, then Newcastle are available 2-1 right now for the straight out win. Now, if you wanted to add a little mini bet builder in there or a separate bet, I'd also go for Chris Wood to score his first Newcastle goal in his 6th game, anytime at 21-10, which I think is a great shout given Brentford's inability to deal with aerial balls.
Okay, now we're going to focus our attention on a game in the Premier League. Well, I guess another game in the Premier League. We've spoken about one in the tactics room, but the other game we're going to look at is United against Watford. Obviously, United had the draw in midweek at the Wanderers against Atletico, and Watford obviously coming into it on the back of a defeat to Crystal Palace. I heard Emmanuel Dennis interviewed a week or so ago. And in the interview, he said, we're in a fucked up situation. And I saw it on TikTok. And I thought, I wish all footballers were as honest as Emmanuel Dennis was there. But they are struggling, aren't they, Watford? What can we expect from this game, do you reckon?
They are. The fact you've just said that reminded me, last week we talked about Harry Maguire, and last night, obviously, João Felix has got across the front of him for that header for Madrid. But it's that, we didn't mention it last night, it's the Rafael van der Vaart interview where he just goes, he's really shit. Just live on TV, you know, no qualms. The Dutch are known for being direct and honest. But yeah, I love that. Yeah, Watford are struggling. Hodgson obviously got his first win against Villa, away at Villa Park, and then getting pumped at home to Palace. So they also seem to be, and Premier League's been a bit like that this season. You've obviously got the top teams that are fairly consistent, but everybody else has just been on this kind of, again, I guess it's the end of COVID, the changes, and it's a bit, for us to come, you know, we're a predictive business at Bet It Right. We use statistics to help people to bet based on prediction, but it seems to be that a lot of these teams are just rock and rolling. And what I'm going to talk to you about now is probably going to make a lot of people either turn off, shout at the screen and say that I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm talking about, or potentially have a bit of a rogue bet. Because actually, the angle that I'm going to go for in this is that, as with Atletico Madrid, United really struggle to break down teams that sit deep. They need space to thrive. And their central midfield can be exposed and their wide players can be exposed if they play against teams that can counter-attack. So I'm going to throw the second game, so I want to be a bit rogue. All right. And there could be potential player rotation for United. There could be some potential players rested. Obviously, a game against Watford. They think, can we play a few fringe players? So again, I would advise Bet It Right users to wait for teams, look at inputs and outputs of players that are going into the team and coming out. But I do think this is a game where Watford's pace up top of Sarr, Dennis, King can expose Man United, and Man United can get frustrated in trying to break that low block again. Now Watford are currently available in the market at +1.5 on the handicap. Now, because of the results last night, I think they may continue to drift towards the weekend. So you may end up getting 1 3/4 goals on them going to Old Trafford. So my tip for this game, and even though they got pumped last night, away from home, their defensive metrics have improved. Only an average of 0.47 goals from 1.2 XG in the last 4. So I'm going to throw, this is the rogue bet of the week. This is where basically I do or die. I'm never going to get any airtime ever again if they get pumped 10-0.
Don't say that.
But I'm going to go Watford plus 1.5 in the handicap market to frustrate United in a deeper block, threaten on the counter-attack. And yeah, I think it could be a difficult one for United at the weekend.
Interesting. That's very interesting. We will take heed of that. Thank you, Dean. That's the look at the Premier League fixture in focus here on the Bet It Right show. And next up, passports at the ready. We're going to go around Europe. Right, give us a sort of summation of what we should look out for in Europe this weekend, mate.
Unfortunately, I don't have any Turkish bets. All right, the unnamed team. I can't. No bets from Turkey this week. But we are going to start in France in Ligue 1. Clermont versus Bordeaux. And people will think, what are those two teams? Maybe not heard of them too much. Spend a bit of time online, have a look, read about them. A really interesting matchup. Clermont, 3 wins in the last 5, been struggling towards the bottom of the league this season, but beat Marseille 2-0, who are fighting with PSG for the title, and also beat Nice 1-0 as well, the team that are in 3rd place that we talked about last week. Lots of players returning from AFCON, and Bordeaux are just a mess. Financial turmoil, they sacked their manager. They drew their first game under the new manager 1-1 against Monaco, which you think is great, but they played against 10 men for from the 34th minute. Bordeaux have conceded an unbelievable 2.87 average goals away from home, from almost 2 XG, which is the number 1 award, I guess, in the league that you don't want, the worst defensive record. So this is a Clermont win is my tip in France in Ligue 1 to roll over a Bordeaux team that are really struggling. So that's the Ligue 1 game. Into Germany, our friend Christian Streich that we talked about earlier, been at Freiburg for 12 years as manager. They're 6th in the league at the moment, moved into a new stadium in October last year, and Freiburg fans are known for making their home games an unbelievable atmosphere. Really intense, really difficult to play against, and they're playing a Hertha team that are really struggling currently in 15th position. Freiburg, only 2 defeats at home all season. Hertha, no wins in 6 away from home and only 2 wins away from home all season. Hertha really struggling with injuries at the moment. And Freiburg are a solid team. Really predictive in the way that they play because the manager's been there for so long. The way that they play is so ingrained. We'll play a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-3, averaging over 1.5 goals a game at home from just about 1.8 XG. And they're a bit of a weird team. So they don't have an outstanding individual, but they have loads of players that score 4, 3, 2 goals. 4 goal scorers on 4 goals. Hertha, 4-4-2, 4-3-3. They've really struggled away from home. Only 0.77 goals from 0.85 XG and have conceded almost 2.5, which is massive, even for the Bundesliga. So my tip for the Bundesliga this week is I think you can get Freiburg -3/4, -0.75. So as I reminded the users last week, you win by 1, you win half your bet. You win by 2, you win your full bet. So Freiburg to win on the handicap market is my bet for the Bundesliga. Now a little trip across into Holland. Massive game between AZ Alkmaar and Feyenoord. AZ 4th, Feyenoord 3rd. Both amazing attacking records and really good defensive records. The first game between these two teams was 1-0. Very underish, but they both played in Europe during the week before that first fixture. And I do think this is a game that both teams go all out. They both have very good records home and away for over 2.5. And they both need 3 points to either challenge for the title, keep the race on with Ajax, or to fight for that European qualification. So for this, my potential bet for Holland is over 2.5 goals in the Alkmaar Feyenoord game. And finally, now, Ollie, last week we talked about Serie A. We talk about Serie A a lot. And we talk about there being loads of goals and it being, a league where there's an amazing league title challenge. And then last week, none of the top 6 won. And 7 out of the 10 games were under 2.5 goals. So we gave it the big bet it right kiss of death last week.
However, for probably 95% of the season, I'd say that the overs have been hit.
And this is why our service for our users is so important, because you've got to deal in long-term predictive performance. It can't be isolated moments that make you lose track of the goal. So that's where you look at it over a long period of time to see that predictive performance. And in Serie A this weekend, we've got 2 heavyweights going together. 2-4-3-3s, Lazio versus Napoli. Sarri returning, or should I say Napoli going to Rome to face their previous manager Sarri, where Sarri ball was born, really. A couple of second-place finishes behind Juve, an outstanding job there where they were just the best team to watch in Italy a few seasons ago. Went to Juve, went to Chelsea, now he's at Napoli. Both with disappointing results last weekend, 1-1 draws, and both within a real chance of getting into the Champions League, and Napoli are obviously in the title race as well. So it's a must-win game for both. They both play in the Europa League tonight. So again, users, have a look at teams, check who's injured. Ciro Immobile's been out for Lazio. Victor Osimhen has come back for Napoli, and those two are so important. Performances with and without them is massively different, especially for Immobile, the outputs and the influence that he has on the Lazio team. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. Lazio number one at home with 2.4 goals on average, and Napoli with 1.7 goals. Those two centre forwards, two of the best in the league. You can get Napoli at draw no bet, which again, check the teams, but I think that's a great spot to go there and get a result, because they do have a little bit more quality, and Lazio's outside of the first team their bench isn't great, so that depth isn't there in their squad. And I would go over 2.5 goals as well. I do think this is a game. There's no chance it dies at 1-0 or 1-1. Both teams need a win. So I think this is one that's an absolute firecracker.
Okay, well, fingers crossed for my anti-post season bet that Napoli can deliver.
Okay. Well, there we go. Now, are you one of those people that doesn't bet on the team that they want to win because you think it's bad luck, or are you one of those people that lumps on and keeps going on for the whole season?
I basically, and it's very profitable, this, but I always put the team that Yeovil are playing in my ACCA, because if Yeovil win, I'm happy. The other advantage of that is that Yeovil never win. So I normally have at least one leg going in my ACCA each Saturday.
I'm disappointed. I'm sure that if there's any fans of Yeovil that are watching this, they're going to be disappointed in you, Ollie. They might agree with you.
I think we all do the same, to be honest. It's the only way we could go and watch. Gives us something to look forward to. Good stuff, mate. Thank you very much for that, as always. Thanks to the team at Surprise Shirts as well for the collaboration. And also, I forgot this, and this is one of the most important, not the most important, but a nice little sweet treat. In the Surprise Shirts box, they actually send you a little bag of Haribo. So you can put your shirt on, have a little snack, and yeah, I mean, I'm just off to have a wander in what is I mean, look at the detail on there. You know, I could easily pop out for a nice bit of breakfast and a pint in Wetherspoons in this bad boy. BIR insights, if you've had a guess at the surprise shirt this week in the kit room. BIR prompts will give you loads of information coming up over the weekend. And of course, betitright.com is the website address that you need for all the football data at your fingertips to help you bet better. Dean, once again, thank you very much. We will see you same time, same place next week here on the Bet It Right show. But for now, take care, everyone, and have a very good weekend.